Namaste, everyone. A very warm welcome to this podcast series newly launched for our new year, Vibrations of Vitality Conversations. Conversations with who? Conversations with our experts on different domains related to holistic health and wellness. We have an elite line of speakers lined up already for our conversation series. But today is the inaugural session, and we have a very special guest with a very important topic to discuss. And the topic for today's discussion would be emotional eating as a request for safety, not a lack of discipline. I repeat, emotional eating as a request for safety, not a lack of discipline. Important, right? So before I introduce to you our special guest for today, as you know, in Vedic science, we always start any kind of session with a short ritual, and that ritual is about arriving in the space, being grounded before we begin this important discussion. Okay, so are you guys ready? If yes, let's get yourself situated comfortably wherever you are, whether you are seated on the floor or on the chair. Just plant your feet flat on the ground, relax your shoulders, relax your belly. You can have your palms facing upwards on your lap or on your thighs. You can keep it facing upward towards the ceiling. Just notice your breath. We are gathering ourselves fully in the space before we start this special session. Focus on your breath, natural breathing. Few rounds of natural breathing as you notice your breath. Now, from your natural breathing, we will gradually switch to deep belly breathing. As you inhale, let your belly swell out. As you inhale, long, deep, smooth, all the way up. Pause for a fraction of a second at the peak. Exhale, belly comes towards the spine. Slow, deliberate, deep exhalation. Inhale, deep, long, smooth. Inhale, belly goes out. Pause at the peak. Exhale, belly comes towards the spine. Slow, deep, deliberate exhale. Last time, inhaling deep, long, smooth, all the way up, pausing at the peak, and exhaling, slow, deliberate, deep exhale. Belly comes towards the spine. Excellent. Now we will begin the session with 3 Omkar chants. So as you exhale, now we will chant the sound Om. Inhaling, pause at the peak, exhale. Completely exhale out the air. Inhaling, all the way up. Pause at the peak. Exhale. Last time, inhaling all the way up. Pause at the peak. Exhale. completely exhale the air out. Take your palms together, gently rub them together to create some heat, some self-healing heat, and warm your eyes open. Just cup your eyes, warm your eyes, and as you are ready, you can gently tap your face with the warm hands and open your eyes. Welcome to Vibrations of Vitality Conversations podcast series in the very inaugural session today. Thank you for being here. Now, as I mentioned, today's topic would be emotional eating as a request for safety, not a lack of discipline. And today, I am honored and highly elated, joyful to have my dear friend and colleague, Slomy Sabharwal, as the main speaker today. So, Slomy Sabharwal is a holistic wellness and mind body coach who helps women break free from emotional eating, burnout, and self neglect. She is the founder of Thrive 360 Collective, a heart centered movement focused on food freedom, emotional resilience, and sustainable health. Through her work, Slomy bridges silence, emotional intelligence, and real life routines to help women build trust with their bodies and energy. Her conversations cut through perfection culture and focus on what truly works when life gets messy. Known for her grounded presence and deep compassion, she doesn't teach quick fixes. Rather, she facilitates lasting inner shifts. Slomy's mission is simple yet bold: to help women feel at home in their bodies and powerful in their lives. Wow. Just by listening to myself speaking about Slomy's bio, I am feeling empowered. And I'm sure each one of you, my dear listeners, you are also feeling empowered already just by listening to the depth of work that Slomy offers for our community, particularly for the founding pillar of our society, which is our women in the society. So, without any further ado, I would like to invite our guest for today in this podcast episode, the very inaugural episode, Vibrations of Vitality Conversations, Slomy Sabharwal. Slomy, warm greetings and namaste to you. Thank you so much for sharing your time from your busy schedule and willing to be here to sharing your insights to empower the lives of all the listeners who are here today. Thank you, Slomy.
A warm welcome to everybody who's listening this, and thank you so much, Dave, for the beautiful introduction. That you have spoken about. Thank you so much. So, for the listeners who are going to be listening me for the first time, just a quick introduction about me. My name is Slomy Sabharwal, and I'm a holistic food freedom coach and founder of Thrive 360 Collective. And I help women, feel good in their own skin, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and rejuvenate themselves and have a beautiful relationship with food, and they feel empowered. So that is what I do with my community Thrive 360. So really looking forward for this beautiful conversation with you, Dave.
Yeah, thank you. And since this is the inaugural session, I could not be more joyful than having a topic like this important. So I'm really also looking forward, and I'm sure all our listeners are. So with that, shall we get started, Slomy?
Yes, let's get rolling. Thank you.
Let's get rolling. Yeah, thank you so much. So Slomy, when I want to start the conversation, what comes to me is when it's about reframing the emotional eating. When people hear the term emotional eating, it's often framed as a problem to fix. How do you understand emotional eating, and how did this understanding evolve through your own lived experience? Over to you, Slomy.
So, firstly, thank you so much, Dave, for asking this question because this is very, very close to my heart. Most people, when they hear the term emotional eating, they think this is a flaw, right? Something to fix, correct? So, I also remember believing that if I had more discipline, if I had more control, okay, this part of me, which I was as an emotional eater, would disappear. But the harder I tried to fix this, the more it showed off, right? So what changed for me, Dave, is that the relationship, the realization, and the relationship with which I had with emotional eating. When I realized that emotional eating isn't a weakness, okay, it's basically, I can say it's a term called as a wisdom, right? It's basically the body's way of saying that I am stressed, I am overwhelmed, I am tired, okay, I need some comfort,
Yeah.
okay, and the safest and the easiest option that anybody can look for. Okay, so when I started my healing journey, I realized that food was never the problem. What was the food doing? It was basically doing its job. It was helping me to soothe my stress. It was helping me to hold the emotions, okay, which I've been having for so many years. It was helping me to give, you can say, a relief, okay, where I did not know they where to look out for, that comfort to look out for. And the best part which happened for me is that when I stopped shaming that behavior, okay, and I started listening to it, that's when my healing journey began. Okay. And it's, I want to say something to the audience is that, we should always feel that emotional eating is not a weakness. It's basically the way the body is wanting an attention from us. It's basically the body is telling us, I'm going through stress or other factors, and I need some sort of a comfort. And when we stop fighting with that, and when we start listening, when we start understanding, the healing actually begins. Okay. And the best part, instead of going and reaching out for food, Dave, is you can meet these, instead of the food habits, the other way is through the kindness. The other way is, loving yourself, listening to it. Okay. And gradually that weight of eating gradually soothes. So that is how, my journey has begun with emotional eating.
Wow, Slomy, that's so beautiful, and so beautiful to hear your story and how you said that the moment we get away from shaming and then we start accepting and loving ourselves more about what's first acknowledging and rising within us, and then taking the necessary steps without getting into that self harmful vicious cycle of shaming and then getting craving more food to eat, and it's like a never ending loop. So thank you for pointing that out. So if emotional eating, if that were not a failure of discipline, for example, but a form of communication that the body, like you said, the body wants to talk to you about something. So if emotional eating were not a failure of discipline, but a form of communication, what do you believe the body is actually asking for in those particular moments? Especially when you feel irresistible that you want to, like, jump on some or grab some of the things that which are not good.
Correct. So, Dev, I really believe that, when emotional eating shows up, the body is just trying to get our attention, isn't it? It happens to us also most of the time when we are stressed. What is the body saying? It's basically saying that, Dave, I'm tired. I have had a very long day. I'm holding a lot of things right now, and I just need some comfort. That is what actually the body is saying. Okay. And food happens to be the quickest and the safest option that we look out for to soothe it. Yeah. So it's not about the hunger. It's basically the need of the hour. It's basically asking for care.
Yeah.
Correct. So
Yeah.
when we stop, judging, when we stop shaming, okay, and start listening to them, okay, they stop, I can say, David stops losing that control. Okay, the food stops losing that control and it becomes more like a information. Okay. And
Hmm.
once that need, Dave, is met with, as I said to you in the previous one, with the kindness or, with the care and the love that we show towards ourselves, the food
Yeah.
basically, instead of being the primary source, becomes a more as a binary. And then we have all the power, whether we want to go ahead and we want to eat it or we want to take another option of self care for us.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this aligns so well with what I just published a digital resource on the title of the resource is the body knows, and by
Yeah.
Ayurvedic wisdom there are 13 urges the body should not suppress, and one of those 13 urges is hunger, without any
Yeah.
surprise, right? So that is an urge that body naturally has, and we are not supposed to suppress it, but rather choose wisely, judiciously, what kind of response instead of reaction I need to provide when the body is asking for that hunger, right? It's about responding to it rather than getting into this self critical loop.
Absolutely. And that's the reason why it's always important that, we listen, we understand instead of judging and shaming, because that actually happens a lot. Okay.
Yes.
As because, it's our own body, we sometimes, don't treat it with kindness.
Hmm.
Correct. But we
Hmm.
need to, we need to treat our body as someone whom we love. Okay.
Yes.
Like, for example could be our best friend. We do not talk that harsh with our best friend or with someone we love. Okay. So if we are not harsh with them, we should not be so harsh with our own body. Correct.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
We show a lot of love, kindness, and understand what exactly the body is asking. Okay, things actually change and the healing actually starts at that moment.
Agreed. Agreed. Totally. And talking about what people usually do. So the next question is more about the safety and the eating patterns. For example, many people eat not because they are really hungry. Like when I say hungry means they are really like body wise really hungry, not mental hunger. Huh? So many people eat not because they're hungry, but because something inside feels unsafe, overwhelmed, or unseen. So eating becomes a coping mechanism rather than actual response to our actual hunger. So how
Right.
does a lack of safety show up in eating patterns from a body and nervous system perspective, Slomi?
Right. See, when we talk about safety, okay, we are not talking anything of a danger part. What we are talking is basically how regulated our body feels. Correct? So,
Yeah.
there were days, when I felt a lot of rushed, I felt emotionally stressed, burnout, okay, or constantly on for that matter.
Hmm.
And my eating habit, they would completely change. Okay. That means, when I was not hungry, I still used to find myself in the kitchen eating sweets or something fried. Okay. And I used to notice that this pattern always used to happen mostly at night when, the house is when everybody's asleep, the high, and that is the time I used to feel that my body needs that safety, okay, or needs that kind of safety aspect. And that is a moment, it wanted to be slowed down. Okay. So food actually became a moment for me that time to pause for that matter.
Pause.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I realized that later on that this is just not anything about food at all. It was basically about my nervous system, okay,
Yeah.
which is coming out of a survival mode, okay, and it's looking for comfort because I have gone through the entire day I'm juggling between a lot of things. I do not have any sort of a break, okay. So when I began later on creating that safety, not through food, okay, but other ways, which could be rest, which could be gentle routines, okay, and the
Mhm.
emotional support that I wanted. My eating patterns gradually softened.
Correct.
Is
Yeah.
how it healed me.
So important, Slomi, that you mentioned about that last part. where you said, what other things I could do that my body might be actually wanting for, like you said about rest. For example, when we are staying up late for tonight, we have a thing called the second wing. The second wing kicks in, and the body thinks that if the body is still on the in the sympathetic nervous system on, the body
Right.
has this second wing where we get this hunger strike late at night, say around 2 a.m. or things, when the body must be actually resting. So the body, that hunger might be a cue for the body to say that, hey, you are supposed to be sleeping now, and it's a second wing kicking in, not your actual hunger that was meant to be at the first place. So you need rest rather than going to the kitchen.
Absolutely
So just to listen to what are the other things we can do to provide the body what it actually needs at that point.
true.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Slomy. So, you know, from that question, I would now, talking about the body, what it actually needs. The next question, it's more sort of considering the body as a messenger, because whenever we have these cues, the urges, they are, the body is trying to give us a message, right? So the next question particularly pertains to the limits of willpower. Now, was there a moment in your own journey, Slomi, when you realized that control, willpower, or trying harder was actually making things worse rather than better for you?
Yes, it did happen. Dave, I remember it very clearly. There were days, okay, there were nights when, everyone, as I said to you, emotional eating happened to me. Very, this journey started when, when I was juggling between a lot of things in my life. Okay. And what I wanted was just, just a comfort. So there were nights when, everyone was asleep, the house was finally quiet, and I used to find myself every single day standing in the kitchen, opening the fridge, okay, and grabbing that snack or grabbing that tub of ice cream for that matter. And that also, Dave, I was not at all hungry. I might just have had my dinner, but still I wanted something to eat. And my response there was that why can't I control this? And the harder every time I tried, the next day it showed up more, coming up with
Correct.
rules, coming up with, strict discipline. Every day I used to do it the next day. But by night, the urge used to come more stronger. And that's when it hit me that I was not actually looking for food. I was basically looking for rest because the entire day, Dev, I had spent, holding a lot together. That comfort, I needed that space for me. Okay. And the moment I stopped, fighting that urge, okay, and instead asking, okay, that what do I actually need? That is the moment everything shifted for me. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
as because the kind of people I meet, the kind of women I deal I cater to, they have this question that, ma'am, I do not have that kind of a willpower. Even if I try harder, it still shows up. So
Hmm.
we understand that is nothing to do with us. It's basically the nervous system, is basically how we tackle, how we understand what exactly our body requires. Okay. And when we, realize that, and the day we start being more kinder, more gentle, okay, and listen to it, things change.
Yes. And that, talking about the willpower, there is a saying in our holistic health coaching, right? That environment is stronger than willpower, right? For example, we can have strong willpower, but
Yeah.
suppose in the environment, say, if you're talking about women, when they are running a household, for example, and in the house we have, as a matter of fact, anybody in the house, we are surrounded in our environment with lots of things that are not healthy foods, like the ice cream that you're talking about, or the packaged foods, or those soft drinks and all that. So if the environment is, we are not changing the environment, but only depending on the willpower, it can only do so much for us, right? So
Yes.
changing the environment, would you agree that changing the environment, what we surround ourselves with, plays a crucial role in supporting our willpower at the first place? Just the willpower is not enough.
Yes, absolutely. And there are so many healthy options that we can even look for, even if we want to reach out for that kind of a food. Okay,
Right.
whether, I'm sure that, we all have our hard days. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of grabbing that unhealthy fried food or that unhealthy sweet for that matter. It's not that we cannot eat. We can have it in moderations, and we need to
Correct.
know what are we eating. And even if we want to eat something, it's there are also healthier options. You can look for healthier, ways how you can eat. The healthier ways you can calm yourself, okay, and stop shaming and blaming ourselves. So those things actually play a very, very vital role.
Yes, agreed. Thank you. Thank you for adding that last point of moderation. And in Ayurvedic science, also, we have a saying in Sanskrit called Sarva Dharmeshu Madhyamam. In whatever you do, middle ground is the way. It's not that you are depriving yourself from your favorite things forever, neither indulging in it. It's that choice of taking that moderation. Thank you, Slomy, for that one. So, next question is more sort of about the stress stored in our body. Okay. So, how do you think that, how does stress or emotional overload get stored in the body? You were talking about having some hard days because you are holding a lot in that day when you analyze what happened. So, how does stress or emotional overload get stored in the body? And why does food so often become the fastest way to regulate that state? Remember you said that we have to listen and see what other things we can give our body, like rest and all that, like the rest, or maybe we are thirsty, not really hungry. So instead of listening to the other options or paying attention to the other option, why does food so often become the fastest way to regulate our craving or regulate our craving state?
Correct. So thank you for that question, because stress doesn't actually, that, right? That it doesn't stay in our thoughts. What does it do? It stays basically in the body, right? So when we are emotionally overloaded, constantly we are juggling, we are rushing or holding too much, without releasing them, the body stays tense, correct? Then, the shoulders tighten, your breathing gets shallow, right? Energy is dropping. Okay. And then what happens? The nervous system goes not from that, the survival mode, it goes into a fight or flight mode, right? So when
Yeah.
it goes in fight and flight mode, basically the stress hormone, okay, which is cortisol, is released. Okay. And most of the time, I used to think, and I'm sure many of, listening, the viewers listening will be saying that, I'm trying my best. I'm trying not to, do emotional eating, but still it's showing up. Okay, I don't have the willpower. But guys, please try understanding that is nothing to do with you. Basically, when this hormone, the cortisol, is released, the brain is actually looking for a quick relief. Okay. And that is the reason why, okay, the body is reaching out for food, because that is the most quickest, the most easiest, the most safest way that it can calm the nervous system. Okay. So that is
Mhm.
something that we need to realize. Okay. So when we learn, instead of going for the food aspect, when we learn how to release the stress, is basically the rest. Okay. It is basically connection. When I say connection, connecting with loved ones, talking to
Mhm.
them. Okay. For that matter, pausing. Before going and eating, just take a quick pause and ask, what
Yeah.
do I really need to eat, or there is something else I require? Maybe I require some rest. Maybe I require something else for that matter. So when we do these grounding techniques, okay, the body actually feels more supported, right? And the
Correct.
urge, basically, you can say they naturally, it eases for that matter.
It eases for that. Yeah.
You need to understand.
Another thing for me, what I was just thinking, maybe another reason why people go for food could be it's so familiar, right? Because see, we get better at what we repeat. repetition makes us not perfect but permanent. So what we
Yeah.
repeat, so food, we are so used to munch on throughout the day, not only just breakfast, lunch, dinner, but in between snacking and all that. So it's a
Yeah.
familiar option, and the brain chooses the least resistant path compared to rest. For example,
Yeah.
in today's, for busy working professionals, um, they are they are resting only once a day, like during the sleep at night. So we do it once, for example, but food, we are doing it throughout the day. So it's a familiar option, and our brain goes and chooses the safest, that you said that it's the safest and most familiar option too, right? That can be one reason why people go for food, because we are doing it all the time.
Correct. And sometimes, we are not even hungry. Maybe, we are thirsty, and we actually don't even drink that kind, that much of water. We actually, that was also something which during my healing journey, I realized that, sometimes, you are really thirsty. Your body is actually asking for hydration because you're so dehydrated. But we don't
Correct.
realize, then we start munching on, unhealthy snacks. Okay.
Yes.
So grounding techniques, if you sip some water, okay, that also will actually help you to, soothe yourself down.
Correct. Correct. Thank you for sharing that. And I like that water example very much, because just like food, water is also safe, quickest, and very familiar option too. We all drink water, or as a matter of fact, it can be some healthy drink like coconut water, for example, in the summer days, or sugarcane, fresh sugarcane juice in the summer days. So drinking is also a familiar option. So maybe taking that as the next thing, that maybe I'm thirsty, so paying more attention and grabbing that water bottle instead
Yes.
of going for the kitchen, right? Yeah. So replacing a familiar option with another familiar option. I like that. Yeah. And
Also,
yeah.
and also one more thing, I just want to add is that for working professionals, because I have also been into that kind of a work profession. So, working professionals, what happens is most of them are doing the desk job, right?
Correct. Correct.
What happens is they do not really have the time, because the kind of jobs they are in, there's so much of workload, there's so much of pressure. Okay, so they don't even have the time to do any sort of walks. So for them, for that matter, sipping a water or just sitting wherever they are, just go ahead and just close your eyes whenever they feel that they want to munch on something. They can always do that, right? Even on the go, for that matter, you can do a pausing exercise, closing your eyes, just pause, just breathe. These are some best techniques that, anybody can follow for that
Can
matter.
follow. Yeah, basically being more present at that
Yeah.
moment rather than jumping in the future or in the past. Just being more grounded and present in the present moment. Thank you. Thank you so much for adding that for working professionals example. Now, I that's next question. It's like a, I think for me it's a big one, because I think it's hard to answer this, but I will leave it on to you. People often say, but sir, but ma'am, I eat emotionally even when things are going well. Like, not that I am, like you said, you had some hard days and you went for the kitchen and grabbed those ice cream. But there are people who would say, I eat emotionally even when everything is going fine. So what's happening, Slomy, beneath the surface in those moments that we often miss? What would you say to those people? Happened to me also, I think, sometimes, that, hey, I want that food and I am fine. At least I think so.
Yeah. So, Dev, that's such an important point, because this is something that I'm sure everybody goes through this phase that, but we need to realize that, emotional eating doesn't only show up when you're obviously stressed, right? There were phases in my life, Dave, where everything looked perfect, okay, from the outside. Okay. Work was going well, family life was settled, routine was in place. And yet I would still find myself, reaching for food at the end of the day, right? But at first I actually did not even realize that, I used to think that what am I doing in the kitchen if nothing is wrong with me. Correct? I'm sure that is also something, Dave, you also must be asking, right?
Yeah.
But when I started looking more closer, more deeper, I realized that, my body has been in a go mode all the time, right? So much of long, stressful hours of working, juggling between family, deadlines, okay? And I felt that, food was the only way to switch off. So food basically is not about, fixing a problem, for that matter. Is basically creating a moment of easing, or for that matter, for me it was more of rewarding myself, okay, at the end of the day, for, holding on together for all the things happen in my life, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that is the thing which we need to realize. So even when, life is feels good, feels, happier, we are happy wherever we are, emotional
Mm-hmm.
eating can go up. Okay. And this I can say basically is like a leftover pattern, a signal that the body is still learning. Okay. Is still saying that it still needs to, it still needs to be more safer and more kinder.
Wow, Slomi, that phrase that you just said, leftover pattern, powerful, I think. So, which is like giving the body enough time because body stores memory, right? Every cell has its own memory. Thank you so much for saying that leftover. So, listeners, please, if you not have your notebook yet handy, I think you should note it down. Leftover pattern of the body, which is why it can still show up as a recurrence of something that were before, but you think it's not now, but it's just that leftover pattern. Wow, because
Right.
every cell has its memory, and it's like, we call it muscle memory. When suppose we do something very often, it becomes a muscle memory. So what we were used to do so often, it's it's impractical, impragmatic to think that it will just go away whenever symptoms are not showing up outside. It can still stay inside, which can show up at certain times, but we have to just be aware and conscious that this is the leftover pattern. I like that, Slomi. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much. This actually connects very well to our next question because during your answer, I heard you said food is a way for soothing ourselves, for switching off. I think you use the phrase switching off. It's the
Yeah.
easiest way to switch off. So, food versus self soothing. That's the question about next one. Is emotional eating always about food, or is food simply the most socially acceptable way we self soothe in this dysregulated world, especially in current world of like go, 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 go mode? So,
Right.
what would you say on that?
See, Dave, I don't believe that emotional eating is really about food. Food is basically just the socially acceptable way we are allowed to self-soothe, which you had spoken before. So, I remember that nights, after a long non-stop day, whether
Yeah.
it is work, whether it is meetings, whether it is family. I'm saying this because the audience, will be able to relate to, because, we all are into this kind of a phase, right? So I remember that I used to reach out for those snacks automatically, right?
Okay.
Without thinking. So it wasn't just a hunger part, it was basically the way I gave myself that permission that I needed to pause. I needed to feel a little more comfortable, a more,
Mhm.
to just finally exhale for that matter. So in a world that keeps us running, food becomes the most safest, the most familiar outlet. Okay. And the moment of ease, we can say, which we allow us to take. So when we learn the other ways to soothe, which I have already spoken about, food naturally finds its pattern, a place to nourish. Okay. And that's how, my answer would be to this.
So, Swami, in your experience, either personally or with the people that you work with, have anyone come up to you where you have seen that apart from food, there was something else also that they are accepting, or sorry, that they are taking resort to as a self-soothing option? Is it always the food in your experience?
See, the people that I have worked with, see, food is one of the options, but it is more also about these, about self-love. It is also about, the kind of support part. When we
Mhm.
food,
Support. Yeah.
right? we also need to understand the kind of support that we get. Okay, even if someone wants to, wants to heal themselves, they need that kind of a support, not just from within, but also from the people around them, right? And that is the reason why having a community is so, so important, Dave, right?
Yes.
When we have like-minded people, okay, that journey to do it alone, actually, we can, when a person does a journey alone, they
Yeah.
can do. But when there are so many people joining in that journey, the journey becomes more beautiful, right? And there are so many things, we learn from each other, correct?
Yeah.
So the right kind of a support is very, very important, because the kind of women that I cater to, they also come up with this thing that I'm not getting that kind of a support even when I'm looking to heal myself, okay?
Correct.
Because the kind of society that we live in, okay, there are a lot of women who don't even speak up about emotional eating. They are actually having a hidden battle within themselves. They are not even when they accept, the society does not allow them to. Correct?
Correct. Yes.
So
Yeah.
that
So
is very, very important, that we need to have that kind of a community. We need to have the right kind of a support that we can give, and the
correct.
right space that they feel more safer.
Safer. So which tells me that to answer to what the answer that you are giving is, it's not that tub of ice cream or that snack at midnight. Rather, what they were actually looking for is some emotional support. Someone, that one phone call that they were needing at that moment of stress, that one hand on their shoulder saying that it's okay, you will be fine. So, that one conversation that they were waiting to have for several years now. So, not the food, but that emotional support. And as you said, community, and we cannot agree more because we both have communities, that how community support going, uh, uh, how community beautifies our journey. This reminds me of an African proverb which beautifully says that if you are thinking of going faster, go alone. If you are thinking of going farther, go together. So
Together. Yeah.
that's so powerful and so much relevant to what you are just saying. So Slomy, thank you for that sharing. And which brings me to the next part. I want to ask you, in the theme of switching from control to compassion. So, what changes when someone stops asking, how do I stop eating like this? They notice it that they are probably not doing the right thing. How can they stop asking, how do I stop eating like this? And start asking, what do I need right now to feel safe? So, what changes when someone changes their question?
Right. So, coming to your question, the moment you stop asking that how do I stop eating like this, correct? And start asking the right question, that is, what do I need right now to feel safer? Everything they changes here. So it shifts from that shame, it shifts from that control that we have been having for so many years with food, to a more curiosity, to a more care, to the more information aspect. So when we stop fighting with our body and start listening, that is very, very important. You begin to notice, am I tired? You'll ask these you'll prompt asking with the right questions. Am I tired? Am I feeling overwhelmed? Or am I feeling lonely? Or do I need to crave for a moment to just pause? So when we ask these questions, we get the right answer, we get the right way of channelizing how to move further. So when you meet that need directly with rest, with connection, with a moment just to pause, okay, everything slows down. All right. And food naturally fixes, and it will basically, you can say, it softens that craving for us.
Got it. Got it. So, basically, we are talking about the body naturally starts coming back where it
Yeah.
truly is, right? Which leads me beautifully to the next question. Actually, thank you for that connection. Is, for someone who has spent years fighting their body, and please, To the extent you would like to, you can share your own experience too, also with our listeners, because I think personal experiences are the most powerful, right? So for someone who has spent years fighting their body, what does coming back home to the body actually look like in everyday life? Not necessarily in theory, but in real life, if you want to share and shed light on that.
Right. So, see, coming back home to your body doesn't mean to have a perfect meal, doesn't mean to have, workouts. Okay. It basically is saying that you need to notice what your body actually needs.
Yeah.
Okay. It could be taking a deep breath. Okay. It could be stretching. It could be pausing before eating. Okay. To check basically whether you're really hungry. Okay. That or you need something else. Or giving, those yourself that permission to rest, right? When you're tired. Okay. So these are some of the beautiful techniques that we can start off. So we do not need to start off with something very different, very faster ways. Small baby steps are something that we need to start off with. So before you start eating, just ask yourself, just pause for a second and ask. Okay. Stretching, beautiful it is. So when I was doing my healing journey, these are some of the things which I started and I'm still implementing it every single day. The best thing, isn't it?
Mhm.
To journaling. Okay. Actually, the best thing is that, journaling can be done anywhere, whether you're working, whether you're a housewife, anytime. Even when you're traveling for that matter, when you're going for work, you can do small
Right.
journaling. Okay. So when I start with my day, I'll do a small breathing exercise for that 5 minutes. I will do a journaling. I do it in the morning and in the night so that, I can just have so many thoughts which go in my mind. When you do journaling, it actually helps me to reflect back how it has been for me the entire day. Okay. And that actually helps me to move further in my next day, the things which have gone right, the things which have gone not gone that well for me. Okay.
Correct.
Actually will help me as a source of nourishment, and I will not feel that kind of a shame. It will not help me to feel that kind of a guilty by the end of the day, right?
Correct.
And make me feel more good. It will allow me to relax myself, and the emotions that I've been holding will not happen when you do these beautiful techniques. The best way also is going for a lovely walk outside, fresh air for that 10 minutes. You
Yeah.
can do things little by little. These small kind choices, which we implement in our daily life, will help us to feel more safer. It will help us to connect to ourselves, connect to our body. And that is the reason why I really promote self love. Self love is something, before even doing these grounding techniques, first we need to love ourselves. Don't say the wrong things to ourselves. I know it's little harder, and we need to start doing that. When we do that, actually, the healing actually begins when we actually show kindness to ourselves.
Right.
That
Yeah.
actually is what coming home really feels like.
Yes, and so for that matter, what you just said, I would just pause here and encourage each one of our listeners just to pause here for a bit. Close your eyes if you would choose to, and then really take your right hand and pat, or your left hand pat on your right shoulder, saying that you have done a lot, you have done a good job. Congratulations for coming this far, right? Because our brain, in positive psychology, we say that our brain has a negativity bias, means anything good, it just sticks like a non-stick pan, like Teflon. It does not register at all in the brain. Anything bad connects like a Velcro. It does not want to leave. So just acknowledging how far we have come forward. And even if we are going through some struggles for the moment, we have done a lot, right? So thank you so much for pointing to that important thing of acknowledgement, that yes, you have done a lot. And small things you mentioned, there is a beautiful book, I would like to share with our listeners also, is Atomic Habits by James Clear. So
Yes.
Atomic Habits by James Clear talk about exactly atomic habits, which Slomy was referring. small things which will add up big beyond our imagination, right? Thank you also for that, Slomi. One thing I wanted to ask, I know we don't have much time and we cannot say everything. By the way, listeners, stay until the end because I will share a way how you can connect with our guest speaker today, Slomi. So please stay tuned. So I want to ask you still very briefly, you mentioned the phrase called food journaling. Now, I also use journaling with my clients and community members. Now, food journaling, that's something I'm very excited about. Can you give us some idea what does it look like? Maybe an example of a journaling prompt or a journaling note, what it looks like, food journaling.
Yeah. So food journaling is nothing but, a food tracker where you actually track your daily habits, okay, from morning till night, okay. Where also, and in that, what you need to do is before you eat, you just need to ask different prompts, okay. You need to ask, what am I really looking? What do I really need right now? And then you need to ask the right questions for that matter. Am I feeling hungry? Am I tired? Am I something else? When you ask these kind of prompts, it will help you to go back, it will help you to reflect back, and then you can decide whether you want to still eat or you want to do some other grounded techniques, which I follow with my clients. So these are some of the uh, small daily habits, I can say, Dev, which will help a person be more more alert, okay, than reaching for that unhealthy snacks.
Okay, so it's kind of food journaling. What I understood is not only just writing down what they are gonna eat or not necessarily just the menu of their food, but
Yeah.
rather to also write down the emotional state they are at. And it's
Yes.
kind of like holding a mirror to ourselves and talking to ourselves, saying that, like you said, before we go for that unhealthy snack, even I like how you said write it down before you go for the unhealthy snack. Like it's kind of holding a mirror to ourselves, holding ourselves accountable for the choice we are about to make, which actually might result in over the matter of time for us to not reach for it anymore, right? Have you seen that in your experience that people after journaling they had stopped reaching out for the food once they have journaled for a certain amount of time?
Yes. And also there is one more thing I wanted to add is the affirmations,
Yeah.
right? Which we also
Mhm.
follow, we also do. Okay.
Right.
When you do affirmations, that is the best thing to do, in the morning. So I give certain affirmations to my community, and they actually go ahead and they record those affirmations in their voice. So the best thing is, instead of listening to someone else's affirmation, when you listen to your own voice, it is very, very powerful. And when you do that first thing in the morning, okay, your day is actually more happier, you feel more lighter, and you have that all that all that power, you feel so happy, you are ready to go for that entire day. So I think affirmation is also something, other than the journaling and the other aspects, that if you do that, it actually helps you to know what exactly your state of mind is and how you have to move further.
To declare to ourselves and to the world silently, well, in a
Yeah.
written format, or maybe listening to ourselves, recording our own affirmations in our own voice and listening to it ourselves. So basically declaring how we are gonna live the day even before the day has started, right? Or uh,
True.
as the day is starting. So declaring ourselves to ourselves first and then to the world. Wow,
True.
exactly. And usually, what I also couple it with is visualization.
Yeah.
Affirmations coupled with visualization. Once we affirm that this is how we will be, and then we visualize living that experience in our body, in our mind, right? Together. Yeah, that goes very well. Thank you. Thank you for that affirmation part. And Slomi, I wish we could continue here for much more time, but I know that your time is limited and our time is also limited for this podcast. So I want to ask you one final question before we wrap up. The final question is, see, I know that there are many things we talked about today and people can always watch the recording. But if emotional eating is a request for safety. What is one gentle question, or rather, one gentle tip, pragmatic for sure, right? Like, which is practical, pragmatic, doable. One gentle question or one pragmatic tip you would invite listeners to ask themselves or do that one tip the next time the emotional eating urge happens? What would you
Right.
leave our listeners with?
Yeah, this is such a nice question that you have asked. And the final one, the question I invite listeners to ask themselves today is, what do I really need right now to feel safe? Right? Not
Mm-hmm.
how to stop eating, you know, but a gentle check in with basically yourself, right? So it might be resting, pausing, it might be connection, or even just noticing how you are feeling right now. So that is what it is. And when you respond to that need that is, underneath, that could be your urge, instead of shaming yourself, instead of blaming yourself, okay? Food naturally stops carrying that kind of a weightage that it has, okay? Been holding so long, okay? So, guys, I would like everybody, all the listeners, one thing I want to say is that you are not broken and you're not failing. Okay, your body, your emotions, your urges, they are just your messengers. Okay, not your problem.
Wow. You are not broken, but your body is a messenger and you listen to it carefully. So powerful. So, listeners, let's everyone just what Slomi just shared at the last tip. Let's all assimilate that in. So, I would say that let's relax our bodies a little bit and let that vibration of the words that Slomi just said. Body is a messenger. We are not broken, and we need to listen to it and be more self loving, caring. So, take a deep inhale in as if we are inhaling in all the wisdom that Slomi shared today, all the insights, and exhale everything that is not serving us anymore. And as you are ready, you can gently open your eyes. Wow, thank you. Thank you so much, Slomi, for reminding us one thing for sure in this past about almost, I don't know, even like 50 minutes, 1 hour, that our body is not our enemy. It's a vehicle of our existence, right? In our life, we are carrying it. Let it be a joyful instrument and not a burden that we think we are carrying with us. And that safety, not discipline, is often what we are truly seeking. Maybe we are truly seeking some support, not
Yeah.
necessarily some strict regime, strict protocol, and all that. Maybe just that one phone call, maybe just that one pat on the back, maybe just that one arm on the shoulder saying, I am with you. Being present, listening to more of what our body, this wise element that God has created, and it's millennia old, right? Millennia, thousands of millennia, this wisdom of the body has been there. So, once again, Slomi, thank you so much for being a part of this inaugural session. And I could not have thought about a better topic to start with. This whole series of emotional eating, particularly for the women who are the founding pillars of the society. There are spiritual masters who say if the women are empowered in a society, the whole society gets empowered. So thank you for doing what you are doing in your work. And for all our listeners, I would say that if you are thinking, but wait, Slomi, please don't go yet. I have more questions. First of all, there are a few things. You can post your questions in the comment box, in the comment of this video when it is posted as you are listening. And I'm sure that me and Slomi will be responding to the questions, especially if it's particularly for Slomi. She will be responding to the point that she's capable of, or I will be sharing the questions with her. And more importantly, if you want to connect with her directly, and if you have specific questions, because some, as we know, and as Slomi said, that some of the questions are very personal. You can't post it in a comment, right, in publicly. So if you want to connect with her personally, in the description of this video of this series episode, I will be posting a link which you can click, and also in the pinned comment, which you can click to book a call, one-on-one clarity call with you. Right, Slomy? They can book a clarity call with you directly. So
Yes.
please do that. Please do that, and you will get all the details how to get the Zoom link and the meeting link, or how to connect with her once you register for that. So use that link and do that. And from Vibrations of Vitality uh, podcast series, and also from Vitality Wisdom Hub, my community, I have some small gift for your community as well, which I will be sharing with you later on, that you can share with all of your community members. And that's a small token of appreciation. It's just like I cannot, whatever you offered to us today, we cannot just like, measure it in any gift. But anyway, that will be a small token of appreciation for you, which I will be communicating with you later. But again, from all our listeners in this podcast series and from Vitality Wisdom Hub, thank you so much for bringing your wisdom, and may God bless you to make your community thrive. 360 community really thrive thousand folds, million folds more than what it is already doing now. Thank you so much, Slomi. Thank you for being our first guest.
Thank you for having me, and I'm so and thank you for the kind gesture that you have shown towards me. And to all the listeners, if anything, if you have any questions, as Dave has, please connect with me by booking the free clarity call, and I'll be more than happy to help you out. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.